Retro.
Are you an aspiring Jedi, or do you dabble with the dark side of the Force?
Regardless of whether you fancy yourself a defender of the light or an aspiring Sith Lord, you're going to need a lightsaber.
Podcast Stardust is pleased to partner with Saber Masters, the creators of high-quality, durable, and affordable lightsabers.
Saber Masters is preparing to launch the Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0, and right now you can get 2 for the price of 1.
So, check out the link in our show notes and go get your Ultimate Lightsabers from Saber Masters.
And don't forget to use our referral code Stardust to save $10 at checkout.
And each purchase using our referral code helps support Podcast Stardust.
Hi, this is Emily Swallow, the armorer in The Mandalorian. You're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. This is the way.
Hello and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And this episode features our weekly look at Star Wars news. But before we dive into all the latest from the galaxy far, far away, Jay, remind everybody where we can be found around the internet.
Absolutely. You can find us right here in our world on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The dish is aligned. The signal is boosted to maximum output. The shield is down, and we are now broadcasting to the galaxy. This is the week's Star Wars news, and this one was very unexpected. We are recording this on April 4th, and I woke up from a nap and discovered that we had a trailer and announcement for our Tales of the Empire, which appears to be the successor anthology short story series to Tales of the Jedi. It'll be arriving on May the 4th. It'll be featuring stories about Night Sister Morgan Elsbeth and then former Jedi Barriss Offee. And it has complete with a cast of Diana Lee Santo as Morgan Elsbeth, Meredith Salinger as Barriss Offee, Ryan Kihlstedt, which is Lynn, also known as the Force Sister, so we get a name for her. Wing Ti Chow playing Wing, who appears to be a new character. Lars Mikkelsen reprising his role as Thrawn. Jason Isaacs returning to play the Grand Inquisitor, and Matthew Wood as General Grievous. So, Jay, I know you were surprised about this, just as surprised as I was. What did you think?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, clever Star Wars. Very, very clever that they told us we were getting Tales of the Jedi and we were actually getting Tales of the Empire, which you and I have talked about. And we've said that would be so cool, if they flipped it and did a Tales of the Empire. So yeah, I mean, the Force was with us on this one. And when you sent me this trailer, I was working on my Mandalorian in the garage, and I literally screamed out loud as soon as I saw Force Sister. And at first I was like, wait, did I just see what I thought I saw? And so, of course, for me, very selfishly, I'm so stoked to see that character specifically being utilized again in canon. Because, of course, anyone that knows me, knows our podcast, knows that I cosplay Force Sister. She means a lot to me. And we got some of her in The Red Blade by Delilah Dawson this last summer, and she was fantastic in that as well. So I'm not going to gush about Force Sister all night long, but I'm really excited that we got her name, that her name is Lynn. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. But I am stoked for this. And I just think it's so amazing that they're going this direction with Morgan Elsbeth and with Barriss Offee. And this trailer was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And exactly 1 month from the date that we're recording this is when we get to see it.
And we'll get into the trailer here in just a second. I was just really surprised by this because the last time I think we heard really anybody talk about a follow-up to Tales of the Jedi was Dave Filoni talking about it at Celebration London last year when he let drop that he had such a good time making Tales of the Jedi that he decided to make some more. And so we've all been anticipating a season 2 of Tales of the Jedi. Now, one of the things they do in this trailer is at the end of it, you have the Tales of the Jedi logo burn away to reveal Tales of the Empire. Very similar to what they did with the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've spent, I don't know how many episodes and how many discussions we've had. We've even got an upcoming episode to record in advance for June. We were anticipating like Jedi or characters we'd want to see in a second season of Tales of the Jedi. And Barra Sophie was amongst the choices that we threw in there. So I
Right.
felt good about that one. Never would have guessed Morgan Elsbeth, but that definitely makes more sense for a Tales of the Empire than it does
Mm-hmm.
Tales of the Jedi type of story. And then the other thing that I kind of noticed from the trailer, and again, we'll get into some of the details in a second, is that it doesn't seem to be going the route that they did with Ahsoka, whereas we saw her as a baby, and then we got a story of her time as a Jedi and Anakin's Padawan, and then a story as from her time after Order 66. And then, Dooku, where he was a younger Jedi Knight with Qui-Gon as his Padawan. And then ultimately the story of when he completely fell to the dark side and started to work with Sidious. These seem to be much more contained in a shorter time span
Mm-hmm.
by comparison.
Mm-hmm. They do, but they still give us a heck of a backstory.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
know me, I am all about that backstory. And I just think it's so fitting. And I'm so glad that they're going that route because I definitely often wondered how in the heck did Morgan even get mixed up with Thrawn in the first place? And there was some hints of that in the Ahsoka series, but we never really got the full story. And we heard Morgan talking about her origins in some regard, but to really see it, and also the fact that she referenced the Mountain Clan, which, eh, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that right out of The Courtship of Princess Leia?
See,
The
I
Singing
didn't
Mountain
catch
Clan.
that reference when I watched the trailer. So you'll have to remind me where that shows up.
It was in the Instagram one that you sent me, and
Okay.
there's subtitles in there, and she was talking Morgan Elsbeth was talking about the Mountain Clan.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, like I said, I just mentioned that. So that's cool though. That they did bring that in there, and we'll have to see what that means.
Yeah.
But with that said, let's kind of dive into it. Again, the great thing about this is it is created by Dave Filoni, who is also acting as the supervising director, whereas that responsibility's gotten passed off to others for the Bad Batch, but he's taking much more of a hands-on approach to this one.
Mhm.
But the whole thing starts off with Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth. They're standing on a wooded planet, and we see them talking together. And Thrawn asks her, why do you seek Imperial favor when we got Star Destroyers in the background? And we get shots of droids attacking something in mass. So I'm assuming it's the invasion of Dathomir, but can't say for certain. And then we get this a voiceover by Morgan that says, "Years ago, my people were all but destroyed. My anger gives me strength. It is that strength that I offer the Empire." And then Thrawn says, "Offer accepted." And then we see soldiers like burning down forests, then Morgan collapsing to her knees while this is going on. So that's kind of the impetus for Morgan Elsbeth's story in all this, which uh, was interesting because, so prior to her showing up in season 2 of The Mandalorian and then being a major character in Ahsoka, we had just never seen her before.
Mhm. Yeah. She's really
But
getting a lot of screen time, which I love. I think that's amazing.
yeah, and it's a great way to bring back this character because,
Mhm.
as best we can tell, she doesn't have a future because she
Right.
died on Peridia. She was left behind by the Night Mothers and Thrawn, which will be an interesting lens to watch this through. We get to see the
Definitely.
beginning of the relationship, and now we're going to get to see. I'm sorry, we saw the end of the relationship, and now we're going to get to see the beginning of the relationship here. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering if we're going to get any of these type of hints about how Thrawn views her as an asset for the Empire, whereas Morgan is kind of in it for the redemption of the Night Sisters.
Right, and revenge.
Yeah. So from there, we get to see a woman that looks like the fourth sister visiting Barra Sophie in a prison. And she says, "I'm here to present you with an opportunity." Is that where you recognized her, or was it later?
No, it was here.
Okay.
It was right away. Oh, it was right away. Yeah, she wasn't wearing her Inquisitor garb.
Yeah.
But she was, I think she was coming more as an agent or a courier than anything else at this point.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we don't know exactly when this is. I'm assuming it's not too long after the events of Revenge of the Sith and,
Mhm.
at the birth of the Inquisitorius. But we immediately go back to Morgan Elsbeth. We get to see her training with some weapons. We see more battle droids. And then we get this statement from Morgan, I will fulfill my destiny, which is all cool. The trailer then shifts back to Barriss, and she's with the Grand Inquisitor, which was such an awesome get, and especially to
Oh,
get Jason
yeah.
Isaacs back to do the voice of that.
Oh, for sure.
And his statement to her is, mercy only breeds defeat, but I will help you overcome this weakness. So, yeah, we could go moment by moment for the rest of this trailer, but, obviously the Four Sisters stands out to you, but what else about all this excites you the most?
Well, again, I was so wanting an Inquisitor origin story kind of a
Mhm.
thing. And just seeing that from the animated point of view is just incredible. I love it so much. And I'm wondering if there is actually going to be any correlation between the story of Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah Dawson and the Tales of the Empire, because we know that Star Wars has borrowed from novels in the past and created those kinds of things, because we got to see that training ground in
Mhm.
that book. And so I just think that would be a really cool way to tie both of those together. And we got to see Marak in this too. So I mean, they're pulling out all the stops, and they're bringing back these characters that, in the Ahsoka series, Marak was built up to be this huge inquisitorious type character, and then ended up
I
not
think
really
that
having
was
that
more
big of a role.
fan hype than anything, because all we
Yeah.
saw were images of him, and then, of course, he gets wiped out, I don't wanna say fairly easily, but with a single slash by
Mhm.
Ahsoka, and
Right.
then
Right.
erupts into green vapors, and then disappears. So, a couple things about that. You bring up this group of Inquisitors, and I can't help but wonder, is this just a different group of Inquisitors that didn't really mingle so much with the other one? Or and then later maybe some of these get wiped out, and then they kinda, because like you said, Marak is there, and we didn't have, like, Marak at all
Mhm.
mingling with any of the other Inquisitors that we were aware of. And then we've got the one that appeared at the final episode of, Ahsoka's final episode of Tales of the Jedi, was supposed to be the one that she defeated in the
Right.
Ahsoka novel as well,
Mhm.
who really didn't have any interactions with the other Inquisitors. And then, now we got Barra Sophie, who prior to now we didn't know was in the Inquisitorius.
We kinda thought maybe she would go that route, but this is confirmation for sure.
Right. But
Yeah.
how many times did we have Inquisitors, whether it was the Darth Vader comic, whether it
Mhm.
was the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games, and the Delilah Dawson's Rise of the Red Blade, and she wasn't an Inquisitor. She wasn't around for any of
That's
those
true.
stories.
Mhm.
So this is very new information for her and a new
Yes, it
direction for
is.
that character. It makes perfect sense given where this character was left at the end of the Clone Wars, season 5. She was handcuffed and led away because she had betrayed the Jedi Order. She had framed Ahsoka,
Mhm.
and we never found out what happened to her after that.
Right. Right. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where they go with this particular story, and maybe she doesn't actually end up becoming an Inquisitor. Maybe that's what we're gonna find out.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because there is this portion of the trailer where the Grand Inquisitor says, "Now you must face one final test," and it's Barriss and someone else standing on a platform, and he tosses a lightsaber between them, and then kind of like a shield or something goes up around them. And then whoever it is that's on that platform with her gets the lightsaber first and attacks.
Mhm.
I couldn't make out who that was. Could you?
No, I couldn't, and I didn't get a chance. I watched it, like, 3 or 4 times, but I didn't get a chance to, like, go frame by frame.
Well, I paused and I still couldn't
Mhm.
make it out.
Okay.
Uh, but then this is followed up with the Grand Inquisitor saying it is time to meet your new master. And we've got the Inquisitors kind of lined up looking off screen from the left to the right. And then we see kind of a door raise, and then we get the black boots and the bottom of the black
Yeah.
cape, and the Inquisitors all get down on a knee, and we get this gradual reveal of Darth Vader. And then we see Fourth Sister Marak, again, that Inquisitor from the end of Ahsoka. And yeah, and then Barriss is there as well. That leads me to believe that she did, because she's in the full Inquisitor garb at that point,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
she is reporting to Vader at that point.
Gosh, it's gonna be so first of all, I have to say, that reveal of Vader was epic. I
Mhm.
love the treatment that Vader continues to get as this incredible dark lord, which he is. So, he needs to continue to get those kind of kudos. But I'm wondering, what is Vader going to think seeing her? Because obviously Barriss was the one that tried to frame Ahsoka, and at the time, Ahsoka was his Padawan, and I know that that was in a former life, but I'm just wondering, when they come face to face, what that's gonna be like.
I am guessing we might get a word or two between Vader and Barriss Offee,
Mhm.
but we'd really need a novel to get Anakin's inner thoughts on that one.
Oh gosh,
Be-
yeah.
because yeah, this being a anthology of shorts, I just don't think we're gonna get that type of depth to the thing.
Mhm.
But she obviously is not gonna have any idea who he is,
No. Mm-mm.
and I'd love to know what she thought if she did.
Oh,
Um,
man.
but that would've been cool. One of the things that happens over the course of this trailer, shifting gears and going back to Morgan Elsbeth, is she's got to fight against General Grievous.
Yeah.
Okay, it was
So
really cool to see Grievous again after all this time, but what'd you think about that?
so would that have been on Dathomir then, when during the Clone Wars, I'm assuming?
That's my assumption.
Yeah. Yeah. But so great to see Grievous again in any way, shape, or form, and it's just so cool. So stinking
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we're getting an expansion of those episodes of the Clone Wars.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to see how they do that, how they make that all work. Now, it's possible. It's not like we saw every moment of Grievous there on Dathomir, but anyway, so yeah, and then we got this other interaction. I mean, I feel like they've teased a little bit of all three episodes that each one of these characters are going to get. Morgan is on some world confronting this character named Wing, and basically, you know, saying everything that comes at a cost. And then whatever this character ship gets blown up after Morgan's allies kind of attack. So it's this is powerful. I absolutely love the way they did this. They didn't give us any hint this was coming at all,
I loved
and they
it.
just announced it. In prior years on May the 4th, we will get like a Simpsons Star Wars short, or we
Mhm.
will get like a Disney gallery for the Mandalorian or something like that. But this year we get this, so I mean that's just so cool. I can't believe they did that.
Oh, I know, and that was such a great surprise. I mean, it's perfect too, exactly 1 month to the
Hmm.
day from when we're gonna get it, which is so great.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Bravo,
go
bravo.
watch the Phantom Menace in theaters and then come home and watch this. So
Yay!
yeah. All right. Well, any last thing you want to talk about from the trailer, or should we move
I
on?
could keep going, but no, I think we should move on.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking
So
about this
great.
plenty after May 4th. I suspect we'll probably be doing
Mhm.
2 episodes to cover the 6 stories. But okay, so let's get into some book news. The first one is that the release date for The Glass Abyss, which is the Mace Windu book coming from Stephen Barnes, has been pushed back from August 6th to October 15th. No reason was given. I
Yeah,
would get worked up about this if it hadn't happened so many times in the past. But what
right.
do you think?
Well, I mean, we've had this happen, like you said, a lot in the past, and it definitely happened a lot more around, the COVID years, so to speak, and because of all the supply chain issues and things like that. But it's I mean, I guess it's not surprising, but I'm just questioning why. What's
Yeah.
the reason for it?
Yeah, and normally in the past, like the authors will come out and say, "Hey, nothing to worry about. This type of stuff happens all the time," and we just haven't had any statements like that. Just there was an announcement that it was happening. So
Hmm.
um, I guess we'll find out eventually. Someone will say something, but okay, it'll be something to look forward to in October. It frees up
Yeah,
our little bit more of our reading time this summer, so which is fine because you and I had other things we wanted to talk about as far as books go
we
with Star Wars
did.
this summer. So
Yes.
so the last story we got for this week's news is that we have another excerpt from The Living Force, which is coming out on April 9th. And this is this edition of the news is coming out the day before that comes out here. It features a new character that we have not met before named Zelastra, who is a Nautolan pirate. And she and her crew have captured a ship called the Marine, and they've taken it back to their pirate base. And they are in the process of eliminating any other resistance in the ship when they come into a conflict with the owner of the ship who doesn't want to leave his bridge. And eventually they get him out and then they shoot him. And then we get kind of a cliffhanger for this, where there is a 12-year-old crew member named Kyla who tells Zelastra that she's found something she has to see. And then we get an unnamed stowaway somewhere in the ship. So for me, the biggest part of this was getting to meet Zelastra, the pirate. That seems to be like a main character. Seems intriguing. What did you think?
Yeah, I always like these new characters, especially when they're very savvy and spicy, as
Mhm.
Elastra seems to be, because the greatest thing was the very beginning. You can't have a meeting of the minds if nobody attending has one, which I
Yeah.
thought was so fun. So right away you kind of get that idea that this Elastra is definitely got some spicy characterization to her, as I said, but I'm very intrigued to know who this stowaway is. I feel like that's being kept from us for a reason, and that's going to be someone that perhaps we might know.
Yeah. You know, the biggest takeaway from this is how much I enjoy John Jackson Miller's work. And
Mm,
he's written a lot of good books in the past, some good Star Wars novels. I've read some of his Star Trek stuff, and they're always fun. He really dives into lore. He does his research, and he writes great stories. And just the dialogue he had between Zelastra and I can't remember the other name of the other pirate that was in the scene with her, and not this kid that shows up at the end. But just the way that all worked out, you know, the way the Zelastra talks the owner down, only for him to emerge from the cabin and her immediately to shoot him.
right.
Yeah, some great characterization there. Super excited for this book. Cleared up some time in my reading schedule to get this one in, so I'm ready to dive in.
Awesome. Yes, and like you said, John Jackson Miller always brings the A game to Star Wars, and it's always a joy to be able to read his work.
Yeah. So good time to be a Star Wars fan right now. We
Yeah,
got, you know, the last couple episodes of the Bad Batch coming up. We've got Tales of the Empire coming out. We get the Phantom Menace, and if you want to do it, the entire saga is a marathon in theaters in months' time. So a lot to look forward to right now.
indeed.
Okay. Well, then that will do it for this week's look at Star Wars news. So thank you for joining us here on Podcast Stardust as we went through it. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if so, and you want to look for our take on future Star Wars news, then make sure you hit the subscribe button on your podcatcher of choice. And then you'll get all the future editions of Podcast Stardust on the news. And we also like to remind you can find all episodes of the show over on RetroZap.com. We've got our entire catalog there, all previous 712 shows. And RetroZap is also home to several other great podcasts covering everything from MCU to DC, Dune, Star Trek, and a lot of other great geek culture topics. As always, we greatly appreciate your 5-star ratings and reviews on whatever podcatcher it is that you are using for your podcast, especially if that's Apple Podcasts. And we'd hope you consider sharing the show and your favorite episodes on social media as well. If you catch these on YouTube, please hit that like button. That helps quite a bit. And speaking of all of these social media places, Jay, you want to remind everybody what they are, where they are, and what else we can be found on the internet?
You got it, Dennis. We are very easily found on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Podcast Stardust. And as Dennis was just mentioning, we have tons of other places to find us as well. We do have a Pinterest board with all kinds of ideas over there. And then our two YouTube outlets, which are the regular YouTube and YouTube Music. So head over to both of those, like and subscribe, so that way you never miss a beat when it comes to our episodes. And then if you'd like to get in on some real time chatter, we do have a Discord room on the RetroZap Discord server. So you can hop on anytime and you can give us your thoughts about the Tales of the Empire trailer or anything else that's on your Star Wars brain. And there's also tons of other rooms available, as Dennis was saying, with RetroZap, everything from Dune, Star Trek, MCU, you name it, and it's probably over there. So just hit the link in our show notes and you are there. And we also have a TeePublic store where we are tpublic.com/user/podcast stardust. The link is in our show notes, and you can pick up one of 7 different Podcast Stardust show logo designs and tons of different types of swag, from home goods, apparel, and everything in between. And if you do happen to get anything, make sure you snap a picture and send it to us or tag it to us. And that way we can share it back out to the wild. And we also have our Saber Masters referral code Stardust. So Saber Masters is the company that Dennis and I are partnering with for the Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0 and beyond. So if you are in need of some lightsabers, these are some fantastic lightsabers. And so if you go to sabermasters.com, you can just simply put in that code Stardust at checkout, and that will earn you an extra $10 off of the already amazing 2-for-1 deal that they have going on. For $199, you can get 2 of those Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0, as I was mentioning. So with that, Dennis, I know you've got some fun stuff coming up with Warp Trails very soon. So why don't you fill us in on that?
Right. So season 5 of Star Trek Discovery is here. My wife and I are covering it on Warp Trails, which is our Star Trek podcast exclusive to the Wretches App Podcast Network. So that means if you want to catch those shows, you just need to find your podcatcher, look for the Wretches App podcast feed, and you'll find the episodes as they come out there. If you want to get our take on past seasons of Star Trek on Paramount Plus, so Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, and Lower Decks, then head over to wretchesapp.com and you can get the entire catalog of shows there. Jay, how is April treating you so far with cosplay?
Oh, well, so far I've been very busy and I love it. So I just did a cosplay con crunch over in North Royalton, getting ready for Fan Expo Cleveland, which is actually this coming weekend, the 12th through the 15th of April. And so I'll be up there schmoozing it up with all kinds of other cosplayers and fans from all different types of fandoms. And so I'm really excited about that. And so I'm planning to debut my original concept Mandalorian there as well. And I do have a playlist that I've created for Tahiri called Vela Vibes. And so I'm going to be putting a link to that in my story on my cosplay account, which is j.snips cosplay, as I mentioned. And so if you're interested in hearing songs that I think describe Tahiri, then you can hit that one up. But you can also catch me as Ahsoka, the fourth sister, which we're so excited about. Of course, I know I am. And Hera, 2 different versions of Hera, and lots of other things as well. So again, that's at j.snips cosplay.
All right. Upcoming on the show on Wednesday, we're getting back into some Clone Wars because we want to talk about Mandalorians and Sith. And we're looking specifically at season 5, episodes 14 through 16. This is when Maul takes over Mandalore. So make sure you join us for that. And then on Friday, it's back to the Bad Batch with a discussion of this week's episode. So until then, thanks for listening to episode 713 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time, and may the Force be with you.